Force yourself to be consistent. Everything falls into place. Let me ask you a question. What would your life look like if you simply did what you said you would do every single day? See, we're not lacking in dreams, ambition, or even talent. What we're lacking is consistency. The truth is, greatness doesn't show up when you feel inspired. It shows up when you show up, regardless of how you feel. Most people wait for motivation. Winners manufacture it through discipline. When you force yourself to be consistent, not perfect, not flashy, just consistent, something powerful happens. Your life starts to align, your habits become weapons, and your results begin to echo your potential. Everything you want is on the other side of consistency, and if you lock in on that truth, everything will fall into place. Discipline ain't punishment, it's the down payment on your destiny. We live in a world obsessed with shortcuts, hacks, tricks, and fast tracks to success. Everyone wants the crown, but few are willing to carry the cross, and that's why so many people stay stuck, because they confuse discipline with punishment. They treat consistency like a burden instead of recognizing it as the bridge to the life they dream about. But let me tell you the truth that most won't say out loud. Discipline is not punishment. It is the down payment on your destiny. It is the price you pay up front for the freedom you claim you want later. If you want to live on your terms, you've got to first conquer the terms you live by. That means developing habits that make no excuses, showing up when it's uncomfortable, and saying yes to what builds you even when your feelings are screaming no. See, motivation is a moment, but discipline is a decision. Motivation is like a sugar rush. It hits quick and dies faster. But discipline is the deep current that carries you through the storm. You don't need to feel like it. You just need to be about it, because discipline creates rhythm, and rhythm creates results. That's how your life starts to change, not in the explosive moments of hype, but in the quiet moments when no one's watching and you still choose to execute. You still choose to show up for yourself. You still choose to get up early, stay a little later, and say no to comfort when comfort tries to rob you of your calling. That's the mindset that builds legacies. That's the mindset that wins. Some people say it's too hard to be disciplined. No, it's too hard to be average. It's too hard to keep repeating the same cycles, feeling stuck, and watching time slip by with nothing to show for it. That's the real pain. Discipline just looks hard because it costs something up front. But once it compounds, once it starts to bear fruit, you realize that it wasn't a cost, it was a seed, and you've been planting it daily. Every time you kept going when it got hard, every time you refused to make an excuse, every time you chose consistency over comfort, that was a seed, and one day that harvest is going to blow your mind. Not because of luck, not because of talent, but because of discipline. And let's be clear, discipline doesn't mean perfection. Discipline just means you don't let feelings drive the car. It means you honor your commitments more than your emotions. It means you do what's required even when it's inconvenient. That's where the power is. The people who achieve greatness don't have more time than you. They don't have fewer problems. What they have is the willingness to force themselves into uncomfortable actions long enough for those actions to become automatic. And that's what discipline does. It rewires your identity. You go from saying, "I want to be consistent," to "I am consistent." You shift from trying to become the version of yourself you admire to being that person every single day, not in theory, but in action. Discipline is also the great equalizer. It doesn't care where you came from, how much you have, or what you've been through. If you show up every day and outwork your excuses, the world will have no choice but to respond. Discipline builds momentum, and momentum builds confidence. And confidence isn't about being the loudest, it's about knowing you can trust yourself. It's walking into a room with quiet conviction because you've already done the work when no one was clapping. That's the kind of strength that can't be faked. That's what builds a reputation not just in the eyes of others, but in the mirror where it matters most. So if you're tired of being stuck, if you're tired of starting and stopping, of dreaming and doubting, then here's your answer. Force yourself to be consistent. Let discipline be the currency you invest in your future. Because at the end of the day, discipline is not the enemy, it is the elevator. And if you stay on it long enough, it will take you exactly where you were always meant to go. Not because it was easy, not because it was perfect, but because you were willing to pay the price daily, and that price is called discipline. Success doesn't respond to your mood. It responds to your movement. Too many people are waiting to feel right before they move. They say, I'll do it when I feel ready, or I'm just not in the right mindset today. And what they don't realize is that those delays are the silent killers of destiny. Success doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't respond to your mood, your motivation, or your emotional weather forecast. Success only answers to one thing, movement. It moves in response to momentum. It bows to action. If you want it, you have to stop waiting to feel like it and start moving like you want it. Because the truth is, your feelings are fickle, but your actions have power. Every time you move forward in spite of your mood, you're sending a signal to your future, I'm serious, and that signal starts to echo. Doors open, skills sharpen, confidence compounds, but none of it happens while you're standing still, waiting for a feeling that may never come. Let me break this down. Your mood is a byproduct of movement, not the other way around. You don't move because you're motivated, you get motivated because you moved. Action creates clarity. Action creates energy. Action creates belief. Think about it. How many times have you dreaded doing something? But once you started, your whole mindset shifted. That's the power of momentum. That's what most people never tap into because they're too busy sitting on their potential, analyzing every emotion instead of executing a decision. You cannot think your way into success. You cannot wait your way into greatness. You've got to move even if it's messy, even if it's small, even if it's scary. Because progress doesn't require perfection, it just requires direction. People ask, how do I stay consistent when I don't feel inspired? Simple. You stop making inspiration a requirement. Inspiration is a bonus, not a blueprint. The real formula is discipline plus movement equals results. You don't need to have a good day, you need to build one. And that starts with motion. Wake up tired, move, feeling stuck, move. Don't know what step to take. Take any step. Forward motion creates forward thinking. The more you move, the more clarity you gain. And the more clarity you gain, the more confidence you build. That's the process no one can skip. The ones who win are not the ones who always feel good. They're the ones who move regardless of how they feel. Let's be real. The world doesn't reward intention, it rewards execution. You don't get paid for what you meant to do. You don't build a legacy based on good plans left on paper. You build it with consistent, intentional movement. Even if it's slow, even if no one sees it, every action adds up. Every move matters. One workout doesn't get you in shape, but it breaks the chain of excuses. One call doesn't close the deal, but it signals your readiness. One rep, one email, one post, one step, that's how you move from dreaming to building. And here's the secret. The faster you disconnect your results from your feelings, the faster you accelerate your growth. Why? Because now you're no longer a slave to how you feel, you're a servant to your purpose. And purpose-driven people don't wait for the perfect mood to move. They know that movement fuels their mission. You don't need a hype song or a sunny day or a fired-up mood to take action. What you need is a non-negotiable decision, a commitment that says, I move because it's time, not because I feel like it. That's the kind of mindset that makes progress inevitable. Because when you move without needing motivation, you become unstoppable. You start showing up daily, stacking bricks, laying foundation, and before you know it, you're building something real, something unshakable. And the best part, each movement makes the next one easier, the path gets clearer, the fog lifts, and that's when results begin to multiply. So hear me, if you want to change your life, change how you move. Don't let your mood run your mission. You're not always going to feel like it, but that's not the goal. The goal is to move anyway. The goal is to teach your body and your brain that progress isn't optional, that action is who you are, not just what you do. And when you lock into that identity, when movement becomes your habit, not your reaction, success has no choice but to show up, not because you were lucky, not because you felt good, but because you moved forward when everyone else sat still. And that's the difference between wishing and winning. Every excuse you make today mortgages the future you're meant to live. Let's get brutally honest. Every time you make an excuse, you're not delaying discomfort. You're delaying your destiny. You may not feel it in the moment, but every excuse you allow is a quiet agreement with mediocrity. You think you're protecting yourself from pressure, pain, or effort, but what you're actually doing is mortgaging your future. You're putting your greatness on hold. You're signing away the life you could be living for the convenience you refuse to let go of. Excuses are the invisible chains that keep powerful people stuck in powerless patterns. They sound reasonable, they sound safe, they sound like "I'm too tired," "it's not the right time," "I don't have the resources," or "what if I fail?" But behind every excuse is a door that never gets opened, a version of you that never gets discovered. And here's the truth. The longer you allow your excuses to lead, the further you drift from the future you were created to own. Excuses are expensive, not just in lost time, but in lost opportunity, lost confidence, and lost momentum. Think about how many chances you've missed, not because you weren't capable, but because you hesitated. You told yourself the timing wasn't perfect. You convinced yourself someone else was more qualified. You waited for clarity that only action could bring, and all the while your future sat there waiting, watching, wondering when you'd finally choose courage over comfort. See, excuses don't just rob you of results, they steal your identity. They convince you that average is acceptable. They make you forget that power lives in progress, not perfection. That motion, even imperfect, is always better than a well-polished excuse. And let's be clear, excuses feel good in the short term. They feel like relief, like permission, like self-care, but they're actually self-sabotage dressed in nice language. When you say, "I don't have time," what you're really saying is, "It's not a priority." When you say, "I'm not ready," what you're really admitting is that fear is holding the pen. And if fear is writing your story, guess how it ends? With regret. That's the weight of excuses. They don't just cost you goals, they cost you peace, because deep down you know you could be further. You know you're capable of more. You know there's a calling in you that's bigger than your calendar, your circumstances, or your excuses. But you won't taste that future until you cancel the lies that are keeping you from it. People who rise aren't the ones with fewer excuses, they're the ones who refuse to use them. They still feel fear, they still face lack, they still have doubt, but they've made a decision that their why is bigger than their what-ifs. That their purpose outweighs their pressure. They've stopped asking, "What if it goes wrong?" and started asking, "What if it goes right?" That shift in mindset is everything, because when you stop giving power to your excuses, you start taking power back from your limitations. You become dangerous not because of what you have, but because of what you're no longer willing to tolerate. And understand this, your future is not some far off concept. It's shaped today, in this moment, by the choices you make and the stories you tell yourself. If you keep making excuses, you're writing a script where success never shows up. But when you take ownership, when you say, "No more delays, no more lies, no more waiting," everything begins to shift. Ownership is the antidote to excuses, and with ownership comes freedom, the freedom to build, to grow, to stretch, to fall forward, and to rise again, because now you're in control. Now you've stopped outsourcing your potential to your circumstances. So let me challenge you: audit your language, catch every excuse the moment it shows up, and crush it with truth. Remind yourself daily, my future is worth more than my comfort, my calling is greater than my convenience. My life can't afford the cost of my excuses. And when you start living that way, when you hold yourself to that standard, the game changes. You start moving with urgency, showing up with intensity, and building with conviction. And one day, you'll look back, not with regret, but with gratitude, because you'll know you didn't mortgage your future, you moved toward it. You paid the price in focus, in action, in commitment, and now you're living in a life that most only dream about, not because it was easy, but because you stopped making excuses and started making progress. Consistency isn't sexy until it starts printing results. Let's tell the truth that nobody wants to hear. Consistency is boring. It's not flashy, it doesn't trend, no one claps for your 5 a.m. alarms. Nobody sees you choosing the gym over the couch, studying when others are partying, building in silence while the world scrolls. Consistency isn't exciting when you're in it, it's repetition, it's routine, it's showing up when everything in you wants to sit down. But here's the twist: consistency isn't sexy until it starts printing results. Until the very things that once felt invisible suddenly make you undeniable. One day, the results show up. One day, your body changes, your income grows, your influence expands, your confidence radiates, and people look at you like you're lucky, like you woke up successful. But they didn't see the 100 days you showed up with no recognition, no applause, no validation. They didn't witness the compound effect stacking silently in the background while you fought to stay committed. And that's what separates the crowd from the chosen. Most people want the glow, but won't grind in the dark long enough to earn it. Consistency isn't about intensity, it's about longevity. Anyone can grind for a week. Anyone can be inspired for a month. But who can keep showing up when the hype dies, when the likes stop, when no one's watching? That's where the real growth lies. You see, most people don't fail because they lack skill, they fail because they lack stamina. They keep hitting reset instead of hitting repeat. They keep chasing the next best thing, the new method, the latest secret, all while ignoring the most powerful strategy ever created: just do it again. Repeat the basics, master the mundane, execute with excellence in the things that look ordinary to everyone else, because that's how extraordinary is built. Consistency is how average becomes elite. It's how small choices become big transformations. It's how invisible work becomes visible impact. But here's what makes consistency difficult: it doesn't give you quick feedback. You can go hard for a week and nothing changes. You can show up for a month and feel like no one notices. You'll have moments where your mind whispers, "What's the point?" And that's when most people quit. But the ones who keep going, those are the ones who unlock the secret. Results always show up late. The harvest doesn't come on your timeline, it comes on truth's timeline, and truth says, what you water consistently will grow. It's not if, it's when. If you stay committed to the process, eventually the process will reward you. Not all at once, not overnight, but always on time, because consistency, even in silence, is never wasted. Consistency is also the greatest trust builder with yourself and with others. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Confidence doesn't come from faking it, it comes from repetition. You believe in yourself when you have proof you can follow through, and that proof is born in consistency. And guess what? That confidence starts speaking before you do. It shows up in your energy, in your posture, in your presence. You walk different when you've done the work. You speak different when you've put in the reps. You lead different when you've earned the results, and suddenly the same consistency that once felt quiet, that once felt thankless, now becomes the reason doors open, opportunities show up, and people start saying yes to your presence before you even say a word. Let me make it plain, you can't shortcut what consistency was built to deliver. You can't fake what repetition was meant to refine. Consistency is your proof of seriousness. It's how you separate yourself in a world obsessed with speed but starving for substance. Anybody can be loud, anybody can go viral, but who can endure, who can show up after failure, who can deliver even when no one's cheering, that's what makes you rare. That's what makes you dangerous. And when the results start coming in, when the income rises, when the brand builds, when the skills sharpen, people will ask, how did you do it? And the answer won't be glamorous, it won't be magical. It'll be the same thing it always was. I kept showing up. I didn't stop when it got slow. I didn't quit when it got hard. I didn't wait for permission. I just stayed consistent. And now, what once looked boring, it looks brilliant. What once felt silent now speaks volumes, because consistency may not be sexy on day 1, but it always prints results on day 100. When you commit first, life rearranges around your decision. There's a shift that happens in your life the moment you stop negotiating with your calling and decide to commit not halfway, not conditionally, but fully. See, most people want to see signs before they move. They want clarity before they take the first step. They want everything to be lined up, the money, the support, the timing, and only then will they try. But life doesn't work like that. Life doesn't respond to hesitation, it responds to conviction. The second you make a real, non-negotiable commitment, life begins to rearrange around that decision. The doors that were shut start to open. The people you need begin to appear. The resources you thought you lacked begin to surface. Why? Because commitment creates momentum, and momentum attracts provision. But none of that happens if you're still stuck in maybe. The universe doesn't answer to maybe. God doesn't bless indecision. The world doesn't move for the kind of person who only kind of wants it. But when you burn the boats, when you go all in suddenly, everything starts shifting. Not because the path got easier, but because you got stronger. You've got to understand this. Commitment isn't a feeling. It's not hype. It's not excitement. Commitment is a decision backed by action. It says, I don't care how hard it gets. I don't care how long it takes I'm in. That kind of energy is rare, and that's exactly why it's powerful. The moment you go all in, you become magnetic. You start attracting alignment because the universe recognizes clarity. Too many people are trying to get results with part-time effort and part-time belief. They dip their toes in the water and wonder why the ocean doesn't part. But the ones who win are the ones who jump in fully, who build before they're ready, who invest before they feel secure, who decide before they feel prepared. And that's the paradox. Preparation follows commitment, not the other way around. You don't get ready to commit. You commit and then you get ready. When you draw that line in the sand and say, this is who I am now, this is what I'm building, this is what I will not quit on, everything around you has to adjust. The world stops treating you like someone who's playing and starts responding to you like someone who's serious. You stop attracting distractions and start attracting direction. You stop tolerating small thinking and start operating from power. But all of it starts with a yes that costs you something, a yes that scares you a little, a yes that demands a higher version of you. Because anything worth having will demand something from you: time, focus, sacrifice, consistency, and only commitment will carry you through the storm when motivation dies out. Let's be honest, life will test your commitment. Every dream comes with resistance. Every goal you set will be challenged. That's not a sign to back down, it's a signal to lock in. Obstacles don't mean it's not meant for you, they mean it is, and now you've got to prove it. And proving it doesn't mean talking about it, it means showing up day after day when nothing looks certain, when the results are slow, when the support is thin, when the future feels foggy. That's when real commitment is forged. It's not made in the moments of celebration, it's made in the moments of solitude, in the early mornings, in the late nights, in the hours when no one's clapping, but you're still building. That's where transformation is born. The truth is, nothing changes until you make that decision the kind of decision that doesn't care how you feel tomorrow because it's already made up its mind. That kind of decision cuts off every other option. It eliminates plan B, it silences doubt, it overrides fear, and once you make it, something powerful happens. You stop needing the path to be perfect. You stop needing all the answers. You just move. You take the step, and the next one appears. You speak the vision, and people start listening. You put in the work, and the results start forming, slowly at first, then all at once. And when people finally ask, how did this all come together? You'll be able to look them in the eye and say, because I committed and life had no choice but to respond. So if you're waiting for a sign, this is it. If you're waiting for everything to align before you act, stop. Nothing works until you do. Nothing moves until you commit. But the moment you do fully, fearlessly, and without fallback, life begins to align with that energy, not because it got easier, but because you finally decided to get serious. Commit first, move boldly, burn the backup plans, and watch life rearrange itself to make room for the future you've already claimed.